Beyond China's megacities and famous skylines lies another country that can feel almost disconnected from the modern world, where ancient palaces rise from mountains, entire towns reflect in rivers, and sacred monuments disappear into mist. Some of these places preserve centuries of faith and architecture, while others reveal landscapes so dramatic that they seem closer to fantasy than geography. What makes them unforgettable is the way nature, history, and human belief have remained intertwined through generations, leaving behind places that still carry a powerful sense of mystery. Today, in the hidden places of China that feel unreal, we journey through 10 extraordinary destinations that reveal a side of China many travelers never expect to see. Potala Palace, Tibet Autonomous Region, China. Above the Lhasa Valley, the Potala Palace rises from Red Mountain at an elevation of roughly 1,100 feet, creating the illusion that an enormous white and red fortress has grown directly from the rock beneath it. For centuries, this monumental complex stood at the center of Tibetan Buddhist, religious, and political life, with the White Palace, Red Palace, chapels, ceremonial spaces, manuscripts, murals, and sacred images forming an immense world behind its walls. From the city below, its stacked levels seem almost impossibly large. Yet the architecture follows the mountains so closely that the boundary between natural rock and human construction becomes difficult to separate. Inside, narrow corridors and richly decorated chambers preserve layers of Tibetan history, while thousands of religious images and historic objects reveal how deeply faith shaped both the palace and the society surrounding it. The most powerful view may actually come from a distance, when the surrounding city becomes small beneath the mountain and Potala appears less like an ordinary building than a sacred citadel suspended between the earth and the Himalayan sky. If you could see Potala only once, would you choose sunrise or the moment the lights appear after dark? Fenghuang, ancient town, Hunan Province, China. Along the Tuojiang River in western Hunan, Fenghuang, ancient town, seems to exist in another century, with wooden stilt houses leaning over the water, while stone streets and old roofs follow the river through the surrounding hills. Many of the town's most recognizable buildings preserve architectural traditions associated with the Ming and Qing periods, while generations of Miao, Tujia, Han, and other communities have given Fenghuang a cultural identity far richer than its postcard appearance. The most distinctive perspective is from the river, where rows of jiaojialu houses stand on wooden supports and their reflections stretch across the water, making entire sections of the town appear suspended between two identical worlds. As evening arrives, lanterns and warm lights spread along the riverbanks, transforming dark timber balconies and stone bridges into a scene that can look more like a carefully designed film set than a living Chinese town. Yet behind that visual beauty are ordinary homes, local traditions, markets, and community life, which is what prevents Fenghuang from becoming only an architectural museum frozen for visitors. Would you rather explore these streets early in the morning or see the entire river glowing after sunset? Leshan Giant Buddha, Sichuan Province, China. At the meeting point of three rivers in Sichuan, a 233-foot Buddha emerges directly from a red sandstone cliff, so enormous that boats passing below seem almost miniature beside its feet. Carving began during the Tang dynasty in the 8th century, transforming the mountainside itself into a seated Buddha overlooking the confluence of the Minjiang, Dadu, and Qingyi rivers. The scale becomes difficult to understand until people appear on the stairways beside it, because a human figure standing near the Buddha's head or feet is reduced to a tiny moving point against the stone. What makes Leshan especially powerful is that the sculpture was never separated from the landscape. Cliff, river, vegetation, and religious image were designed to be experienced as one monumental scene rather than independent attractions. More than 12 centuries later, the Buddha still watches the same rivers below, turning the site into a rare place where geology, engineering, Buddhist belief, and the movement of water meet in a single view. Mount Emei, Sichuan Province, China. High above Sichuan, Mount Emei rises through dense forest and drifting cloud until pilgrims reach the golden summit, where a 7-foot gilded statue of Samantabhadra appears above the mountains like a figure floating over a sea of white. Emei has been connected with Buddhism for roughly 2,000 years, and UNESCO describes it as one of the places where Buddhism first became established in China before spreading more widely through the East. But the mountain's most unforgettable experience is the vertical journey itself, because travelers move from humid subtropical forests into cooler, high-altitude landscapes before emerging among temples, clouds, and distant, snow-covered peaks. At the Golden Summit, changing weather can hide everything within minutes and then suddenly open again, revealing the massive golden figure surrounded by sunlight, while lower valleys remain completely buried beneath cloud. That combination of altitude and faith gives Emei its unreal character, because the final destination does not feel simply like reaching the top of a mountain. It feels like leaving the ordinary landscape behind. If the summit was covered in clouds when you arrived, would you wait for hours hoping the sky would finally open? Longmen Grottoes Luoyang. Longmen Grottoes first appear as a quiet limestone cliff beside the Yi River. But as the camera moves closer, the rock begins to reveal an entire civilization of faces watching from thousands of shadowed niches. The most powerful way to understand this place is as a mountain transformed into prayer, because generations of monks, rulers, donors, and anonymous artisans carved belief directly into stone rather than building a monument that could be carried away. Across centuries, more than 100,000 Buddhist figures were created here, ranging from tiny images small enough to fit in a hand to colossal guardians whose calm expressions still dominate the cliff despite weather, conflict, and time. Every robe fold, lowered eyelid, and faint smile records the movement of a human tool against resistant rock, making the site feel less like a collection of statues and more like the accumulated rhythm of countless lives devoted to a single sacred task. Many figures have lost hands, faces, or entire bodies, yet the damage gives the cliff an unexpected force, because what survives is not perfection, but the visible struggle between memory and erosion. Longmen endures as proof that faith can outlive dynasties when it is repeated patiently enough, one strike at a time, until a wall of stone becomes a silent population that refuses to disappear. Which face would you search for first, the smallest hidden figure or the giant watching over the river? Huangguoshu Waterfall, Guizhou Province, China. Deep in Guizhou's karst landscape, Huangguoshu drops about 255 feet across a broad wall of water, producing enough spray to partially hide the cliffs and vegetation surrounding one of Asia's most imposing waterfalls. But its most unusual feature is not simply the size of the cascade, because a natural passage known as the Water Curtain Cave extends for roughly 440 feet behind the falling water. Visitors can move through this hidden corridor while the waterfall crashes outside, allowing them to experience the same curtain of water from behind rather than only observing it safely from a viewpoint across the valley. Through openings in the rock, sections of white water suddenly appear at extremely close range, while mist fills the passage and the roar of the waterfall becomes more powerful than the landscape visible beyond it. That change in perspective turns Huangguoshu from a beautiful waterfall into something much stranger. For a few minutes, travelers can literally disappear behind one of China's largest curtains of moving water. Would you rather photograph Huangguoshu from the front or walk through the cave hidden behind it? Kanas Lake, Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, China. Near the Altai Mountains in far northwestern China, Kanas Lake lies between forests and snow-covered peaks. Yet its most mysterious quality is the way its water seems to change color as the landscape and light around it change. Depending on season, weather, sunlight, and time of day, the lake has been described in shades ranging from deep green and blue to grayish-white, giving Kanas its famous reputation as a color-changing lake. The effect becomes especially dramatic in autumn when golden birch forests and dark conifers surround the water while snow begins returning to the higher mountains, producing several completely different layers of color in one landscape. Local stories add another dimension, including long-running legends of mysterious creatures living in the deep lake, which have helped Kanas develop an atmosphere closer to folklore than a conventional alpine destination. Science can explain why changing light, weather, sediment, and surrounding vegetation alter what our eyes perceive. But from a high viewpoint, the lake can still look as though someone has changed the color of the water between shots. If you visited Kanas, would you come for the autumn colors or the mystery surrounding the lake itself? Tianchi Lake, Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, China. On the northern side of the Tian Shan Mountains, Tianchi Heavenly Lake rests at roughly 270 feet above sea level beneath the snow-covered mass of Bogda Peak. Unlike the volcanic Tianchi Lake at Changbai Mountain in northeastern China, this Xinjiang Lake belongs to a high alpine landscape shaped by the glacial environment of the Tian Shan, surrounded by conifer forests and mountain ice. Its crescent-shaped water can appear almost unnaturally blue beneath clear skies, especially when the dark spruce forest around the shoreline contrasts with bright glaciers and snowfields rising thousands of feet above it. The most striking aspect is this sudden meeting of different worlds, because Xinjiang is often imagined as desert, yet here visitors encounter cold mountain water, thick forest, glacier, and snow-covered peaks within the same far western region. Seen without any location information, Tianchi could easily be mistaken for somewhere in the Canadian Rockies or Switzerland, which is precisely what makes this corner of China feel so unexpected. By the way, where are you watching this journey from? And what time is it there right now? Leave your country and local time in the comments. Gulangyu Island, Fujian Province, China. Across a narrow strait from the modern towers of Xiamen, Gulangyu Island preserves a completely different urban atmosphere, where ferries replace highway access and historic villas sit along winding pedestrian streets beneath subtropical trees. The island became an international settlement in the early 20th century, producing an unusual fusion of traditional southern Fujian architecture, European classical influences, colonial verandas, and the distinctive hybrid style, later known as Emei Deco. UNESCO records more than 900 historic buildings within this cultural landscape, making an ordinary walk through the island feel like moving between several architectural traditions without ever leaving the same small piece of land. Its separation from mainland road traffic is equally important because Gulangyu was never connected to Xiamen by ordinary traffic infrastructure and remains dependent on ferries, helping preserve a slower rhythm than the metropolis visible just across the water. That contrast is the island's strongest illusion. One skyline belongs to contemporary urban China, while only a short boat ride away, another neighborhood preserves traces of the moment when Chinese, Southeast Asian, and European cultures met on the same streets. Would you spend your day exploring the architecture or simply wandering these quiet streets without a plan? Pingyao Ancient City, Shanxi Province, China. Behind the walls of Pingyao, an entire traditional Chinese city survives with its historic street plan, courtyards, shops, temples, and neighborhoods still arranged within a layout established centuries before cars transformed modern urban life. Founded in its surviving form during the 14th century, Pingyao developed for more than 500 years while preserving the structure of a traditional Han Chinese county city to an exceptional degree. The most immersive experience comes from walking through the old streets after modern distractions begin to fade, when grey brick buildings, enclosed courtyards, wooden shopfronts, stone paving, and red lanterns create a continuous historic cityscape instead of a few isolated monuments. Pingyao also became one of China's major financial centers during the 19th and early 20th centuries, meaning many of the imposing old compounds once belonged to businesses connected with an early nationwide banking network. Unlike a reconstructed film set, the power of Pingyao comes from the survival of the city as a complete urban system where walls, lanes, houses, stories, religious buildings, and financial history still remain physically connected. If you could spend one night inside these ancient walls, would you explore after dark or wake before sunrise to see the empty streets?